If you think buying a modern car with confusing dealer options is stressful, imagine strolling into a Detroit showroom in 1905, handing over $1,200 and driving home in a brass carriage with no windshield, no roof, and an engine hiding under your seat. That was the reality of the 1905 Ford Model F, an essential stepping stone in automotive history that most modern drivers have forgotten. Before we crank-start this magnificent brass antique and explore how it changed personal transportation forever, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a quick like so you never miss another deep dive into vintage motoring. To truly understand the Model F, we have to travel back to an era when automobiles were considered noisy, smoke-belching devil wagons designed purely to frighten local farm animals. In 1905, paved roads outside major cities were practically non-existent, gas stations did not exist, and purchasing fuel meant visiting the local pharmacy to ask for a small bottle of cleaning solvent called benzene. Henry Ford was still managing a young enterprise, feverishly working his way through the alphabet before finally striking gold with the letter T. Most enthusiasts recognize the original 1903 Model A and the ubiquitous Model T, but nestled squarely in between sat the plucky Model F. Henry Ford was constantly experimenting to find the ideal balance between build cost, passenger practicality, and mechanical durability. The Model F served as a direct upgrade to the preceding Model C, bringing a slightly longer wheelbase, increased cabin space, and more substantial bodywork. Sold as a four-passenger touring phaeton, it was painted in an elegant dark green finish, accented with bright brass fittings. The original asking price was roughly $1,000, which later crept toward $1,200 depending on equipment. For that expenditure, an adventurous buyer received an open-air machine that claimed to conquer muddy hills with effortless mechanical poise. One of the most charming aspects of early 20th century automotive design was the visual deception used to satisfy consumer vanity. During this era, wealthy European manufacturers established a prestigious fashion trend by mounting large multi-cylinder engines right at the front of the vehicle under elongated metal bonnets. American buyers naturally demanded that same commanding presence, so Ford equipped the Model F with an impressive squared-off front hood. However, anyone who lifted that brass-trimmed cover was in for a surprise because the engine was nowhere to be found. Instead, the stylish nose housed the cooling radiator, plumbing lines, a fuel reservoir, and minimal cargo space. There's another reason this car became so important, and it involves the unconventional mechanical layout hidden directly beneath the floorboards. The beating heart of the Model F was a horizontally opposed two-cylinder flat twin engine mounted squarely under the front passenger seat. Displacing 127 cubic inches, which translates to roughly 2.1 liters, this cast-iron motor produced between 12 and 16 horsepower. While those output figures sound modest today, in 1905 that was substantial grunt. It provided enough torque to carry 4 adults across unpaved country tracks at a top speed approaching 35 miles per hour, which felt terrifyingly fast. Transferring that two-cylinder power to the rear axle required a 2-speed planetary transmission, a mechanism that Henry Ford loved for its rugged simplicity. Operating this gearbox was entirely different from driving a modern automobile, requiring the driver to dance between floor pedals and an external hand lever to change ratios. Low gear and reverse were engaged using individual foot pedals, while direct high-speed drive locked in via the side lever. Slowing the vehicle down was an adventurous exercise, handled by an internal transmission brake band combined with basic rear-wheel drums, requiring plenty of forward planning whenever a horse wandered across the road. What happened next surprised everyone, especially passengers who were accustomed to the awkward ergonomics of 19th-century horseless carriages. Earlier family vehicles generally used a rear entrance tonneau, which required passengers to open a narrow door at the back and climb in over the rear axle. This layout meant that whenever a driver parked near a muddy curb, backseat occupants were forced to step directly into street filth and carriage debris. The Model F solved this indignity by introducing side entrance doors alongside broad wooden running boards. This practical innovation allowed passengers to disembark cleanly onto raised pedestrian walkways, establishing a standard layout for all future family automobiles. Operating a Model F on a daily basis demanded physical endurance, mechanical sympathy, and an unwavering respect for heavy iron components. Starting the motor required the driver to stand at the side of the chassis, insert a massive steel crank handle, adjust the dashboard mixture, and manually retard the ignition timing on the steering column. Forgetting to retard the spark could cause the engine to kick back violently, instantly fracturing the operator's wrist or thumb. Furthermore, the engine relied on total loss mechanical drip lubricators, ensuring the undercarriage remained continually coated in oil while creating a distinct aromatic haze of burnt petroleum everywhere the vehicle traveled. But that's only part of the story, as the Model F also played a decisive role in the fierce corporate struggle that nearly destroyed Ford Motor Company. Behind boardroom doors, Henry Ford was locked in a bitter philosophical dispute with his primary financial backer, a wealthy coal dealer named Alexander Malcomson. Malcomson was firmly convinced that the automotive market belonged exclusively to wealthy aristocrats who demanded massive, complex, high-priced luxury tours. He insisted that the company channel its energy into developing heavy six-cylinder models like the ill-fated Model K, which cost more than double the price of simpler alternatives. However, one major problem changed everything during the production cycle of 1905. While wealthy buyers largely ignored Ford's expensive luxury models, middle-class customers eagerly purchased the practical, dependable Model F in steady numbers. The undeniable sales momentum of the two-cylinder touring car proved that Henry Ford's vision of affordable personal transportation was commercially superior. Armed with this market validation, Ford successfully orchestrated a buyout of Malcomson's shares, gaining absolute control over the company's manufacturing strategy. With his stubborn partner out of the way, Ford immediately refocused all engineering resources towards developing lightweight, rugged, and mass-producible vehicles for ordinary working families. Between 1905 and 1906, Ford produced roughly 1,000 examples of the Model F at the Piquette Avenue plant in Detroit. By modern manufacturing standards, 1,000 units might seem like a tiny production run, but during the infancy of the automotive industry, it represented an enormous commercial triumph. Most competing automakers of the era were building fewer than 50 bespoke vehicles per year in converted barns. The steady revenue generated by Model F sales provided the crucial financial bridge that funded experimental four-cylinder platforms, eventually leading directly to the revolutionary Model T assembly line in 1908. From a structural viewpoint, the Model F blended traditional carriage construction with progressive automotive engineering. The body tub was built from seasoned ash wood wrapped over a sturdy pressed steel ladder frame, supported by full elliptic leaf springs that provided remarkable ground clearance over deep wagon ruts. Because weather protection was considered an optional luxury, original owners drove completely exposed to torrential rain, dust clouds, and flying gravel. Glass windshields were virtually non-existent on standard models, making heavy leather coats, wide-brimmed hats, and protective motoring goggles mandatory equipment for anyone brave enough to embark on an afternoon country excursion. More than a century later, the 1905 Ford Model F stands as a rare and celebrated treasure within the global historic vehicle community. Historians estimate that only a few dozen genuine examples have survived intact, making them prized centerpieces in prestigious automotive museums and private brass-era collections. Whenever an authentic Model F appears at world-class collector auctions, bidding routinely reaches well into six figures. Watching an operational Model F motor down the road today offers a captivating sensory spectacle, where the slow mechanical cadence of its two cylinders and the gleam of polished carbide headlamps bring dawn of motoring history back to life. Ultimately, the Model F represents the turning point when the horseless carriage shed its experimental quirks and matured into a dependable family necessity. It proved that practical transportation should not be reserved strictly for the ultra-rich, establishing the core philosophy that would soon put the entire world on wheels. Without the lessons learned from this plucky two-cylinder runabout, the modern automobile as we know it might have taken a vastly different path. Would you have dared to crank-start this two-cylinder pioneer and navigate muddy dirt roads in 1905? Or would you have stayed completely safe on horseback? Share your thoughts in the comment section down below, hit that like button, and subscribe for more classic automotive history today.